Welcome to Avant-Garde Entrepreneur. I am so glad you're here today with me, my friend. If you're listening to this episode when it drops in November, you might be feeling a little pressure about annual goal setting or having New Year's resolutions that have gone by the wayside. And you're sort of excited and sort of dreading setting new ones. As you know, I am an advocate for not setting goals at the beginning of the year. I stopped doing this a long time ago when I realized how much pressure I was putting on myself that was completely unnecessary. Instead, I create my goals and, most importantly, my intentions every 3 months, which is for me is March to May, June to August, September to November, and December to February. So for me, whenever January comes around and everyone is putting all this frenetic energy into New Year's resolutions and annual goals, I'm in the middle of my goal and intention quarter, and I just sort of roll right through with my plan. And alternatively, toward the end of the year, like now, when everyone is feeling pressure to wrap up their goals, I take time to set aside and really think about what has happened in this past year from last December. And what do I want to change? How do I want things to look differently? So, to learn more about how I set my 3 month goals, check out episodes 21 and 47, which are linked in the show notes. Today, I'm talking about supplements or complements to New Year's resolutions and annual goal setting. If you're on fire with your current or annual goals, meaning you love setting them, you have a plan, and you're on your path to achieving them, then keep that going. The idea that we measure what matters is so, so true. And the tools I share today will be a complement to support you in achieving those goals. If you're like most people on the planet and you're feeling pressure to set and achieve goals because life has gotten in the way or you're not achieving your goals as quickly as you'd like, then these tools can be a supplement to your goal setting until you can decide a more realistic plan. The reason I created this episode was to give you permission to release the pressure valve and take a breath so that you can take your peace and clarity back. Last year, my words for December, January, and February, my word for that season was restoration. Restoration involves rest. Since I actually slowed down this year and wasn't going 100 miles an hour, I was much more aware of what was being shared and what was the energy of things online and on social. And even though I wasn't on social much and I didn't really catch a lot of the mainstream channels, it was shocking how much I was hearing and reading and seeing all around New Year's resolutions and goal setting. And I admit I was even feeling pressure. So I thought, well, if I'm feeling pressure and I have been having this plan for years, then maybe you are feeling the pressure too. So, next to episodes on overcoming overwhelm, goal setting is by far the most popular topic on the show. And what's more important than setting goals is actually achieving them with joy, contentment, and ease. My good friend and coach, Natalie Alexia, has said that goals can be a stick with which we use to beat ourselves. And that is so true. This means that we set goals and then we beat ourselves up and we're so hard on ourselves when we don't reach them. So what I'm sharing are high vibe tools to either help you bridge the gap from to your next goal setting quarter or maybe even ditch it altogether. So, here are 3 supplements or complements to your New Year's resolutions or annual goals. Number 1, write a letter to yourself. Number 2, create a vision board. And number 3, delete some of your goals. Yep, you heard that right. Delete some. So, first, let's talk about writing a letter to yourself. Writing a letter to yourself can take on many different forms. And I could give you some prompts, but know that whatever comes out in your letter to yourself is uniquely right for you. I suggest doing this during your quiet time, whether that's morning, afternoon, evening. Don't go from a staff meeting right into this. That's my point. It's not the right energy for the gentleness and really hearing your spirit. You really want to do this at a time when you are naturally more peaceful entities and you're more in tune and more in the flow with what your spirit is saying. Focus more on what's working versus what to change. Then lean into more of what's working. And what I mean by this is it's so easy for us to focus on the negative and what we did wrong, what we said wrong, what goals we didn't achieve. Oh my gosh, so guilty of this. What I have learned from my experience is that whenever we focus on what went right, it's incredible how much it raises our vibe and how much it raises our emotional state and our belief in ourselves and our belief in humanity and our belief that anything is possible. I even noticed this with journaling. When I start, I typically start with gratitude, unless I've got something that's really heavy on my mind. If I woke up with something really heavy on my mind, I'll go ahead and write that out just to get it off my chest. But I typically start with what I'm thankful for from the day before. And it is amazing how that sets the tone, not only for the rest of my journal and my quiet time, but it sets the tone for the rest of my day. So writing a letter to yourself from the perspective of what's going right versus what's going wrong can really change the energy around what you write. A good question to ask yourself is, what would your 80-year-old self say to you? Use your imagination a little bit, but maybe you think about maybe an older person in your life, the ideas that you think about yourself. How am I at 80? And if I were 80 years old with all these decades behind me and all that wisdom, and I were looking back at these challenges I'm dealing with and these visions I have and this intention and this change that I want to make in the world, what would I say to myself? This is your spirit talking, I think, in the most coolest sense, because this is not just you. This is the wisdom. This is the innate wisdom that you have in you. And a lot of the answers you already have to your own challenges and questions that are sitting there and waiting for you, waiting to be heard. And another thing to think of is, last year, if you can think about, depending on when you're listening to this, if you took off time during the holiday season, did you say, wow, I really want more of this? Then that's a sign that your spirit is really wanting you to slow down. And this letter can be part of this wisdom and this new way of communicating with yourself. So what I do with the letter is I write the letter to myself and I put it away. And I have a note on my calendar for 1 year from that date to read the letter to myself and to see exactly what else happened. And it is. I'm so excited to read my letter this year. I'm going to read it on December 15th, I think is the date on my calendar. But to see all the things that happened and then to think of the things that I wrote down and I look back and I think, wow, I was really thinking kind of small there. And to see how, my spirit and all the resources and things have really shown up to support me. And also thinking how things that I wanted so much, they weren't for me. And when they were removed from my life, I might not have liked it at the time, might have thought I had failed or I had done something wrong. But then I look back and I realize, wow, that really didn't fit in this future for me. So I encourage you to write a letter to yourself. This can be something you do in addition to, or even as a substitute for goal setting. And I think that you will find it incredibly, incredibly valuable and really rewarding. As long as you don't forget where you put your letter. Got to remember where you put your letter. Number two, create a vision board. I cannot emphasize enough the power of creating a vision board. It doesn't have to be expensive or fancy. It doesn't matter if you are a visual, kinetic, or audio learner. Images are such powerful tools. And whenever we have images in front of us, what this does is this helps our subconscious go to work in the background, bringing what it is you desire into your life to you while you go about your work and serving others. And it doesn't even need to make sense at the time, the images that you find. One of the most powerful vision boards I created was during the depths of the COVID lockdown. And all I had were these old travel magazines that seemed completely irrelevant because not only was no one traveling, but it seemed like no one would ever travel again. So here I am. All I have are these old magazines or even new ones that came in. They were so thin because no one's going anywhere. And I was in school and working. And while I had thoughts of what I wanted my life to look like and to how I want it to be after graduation, I had no idea what that would look like or what kind of shape that would take. Or I had zero certainty that any of it was possible. It was all just in my head and in my vision. At least I say all, but it turns out that that's where it's the most important place for it to be. So what I did was I cut out words and images that got my attention on the pages of the magazine. And it was very simple. I took a glue stick, you could take tape, and I put them on a piece of printer paper. So it wasn't even a board. It was literally just a piece of printer paper, 8.5 by 11. I've done big boards before, but this wasn't because we couldn't even go out to get anything if we wanted to. And I didn't really want to spend any money going out and getting a board when I could just put it on a piece of paper because nothing that I was putting on there really made sense at the time anyway. So I was like, let's just, it's kind of a Hail Mary. Let's just see how this turns out. So I just glued this stuff on there and I looked at it and I was like, wow, this is really pretty. This seems really impossible, but at least it looks cool. Would you believe that 5 years later, every single word and image on that paper has manifested in way? Some way. And it wasn't as if I even set goals around those images. It was more that those images represented these deep desires of my heart that I didn't even conceive were there at the time. And then over the next 5 years, my goals evolved from there. So I hope that this is an encouragement that a vision board, it doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't even have to be in person in person. If you have Canva, Google Doc, anything, you can basically just copy paste images from that you find online. And I think as long as you're not distributing them and it's for your personal use, you don't have any issues with copyright stuff. So you don't even have to have a physical piece of paper. It can be something that is just for you. You can make it your screensaver on your computer. So every time you open up your computer, this is what you see. I do encourage you having it somewhere you can see. The pic one I was telling you about from 5 years ago, it was when I sat at my desk, it was always to my left. So it was kind of always out of my peripheral vision. And I could also see it when I walked out of my kitchen. And I think you all know I've talked about I'm in my kitchen a lot because I eat a lot and drink coffee a lot. So just try to put it somewhere where you can see it. And it doesn't have to be where other people can see it, just something that is sort of running in the background. And I think you'll really find that this is a really powerful, powerful, powerful exercise, especially if you give it time. Number 3, delete some of your goals. That's right, delete some of them. The reality is, our priorities change, our values change. I talked about this a lot with Jennifer Johnson a few episodes ago on the episode on grace and grit. And we write these things down, and they're coming from our spirit. A lot of times when we write them down, sometimes they're not, but a lot of times they are. And or most times they are. But one thing I have learned that I do is I set very unrealistic time frames. So having the goal and having the intention is one thing, but whenever I put a time frame on it, It rarely, rarely happens. It's very rare that I actually accomplish my goal in that time frame. And so I share this because sometimes we get to the end result of our goal in a different way. So we can write things down and we think that this is the way that it's going to work out. And we might realize 2 or 3 or 10 years later that, wait, I got to my goal. It just was in a different path than what I thought it was going to be. I had a goal since 2008, and my goal was to set up a business and buy real estate in a different country. And I know that some people do this all the time, but this was when I think I was probably in my 30s, mid 30s at the time. And so this is a big, big deal for me. Actually, I was early 30s. Yeah, early 30s. It was a big deal for me. So I put this goal down and I thought, wow, I, I can, I've got my little place here. It's not paid off, but I have it. But I just have this desire to start a business in another country and I want to buy some property, maybe in a different country. And don't know where it came from. It was just this deep, deep desire. I moved again, that was 2008. I moved that goal so many times that I finally just deleted it because I was sick of looking at it and sick of having it on there and sick of not achieving it. And I would just beat myself up as I'd move it every quarter and go, well, didn't start a business in another country yet, sure didn't buy any property, and I'm nowhere close to it. And so I just deleted it. And would you believe that just this month I achieved both of those goals? 17 years later. And I wasn't even consciously thinking of it anymore. You see, once you write down your goals, once you write it down once, even if it's just once, this is the power of the pen, power of writing it in the tablets. Even if you never to see it again, your brain, it's specifically your reticular activating system or RAS in your brain, it goes to work in the background to make it happen. It's very similar to a vision board. So when you put the images on there, even if you only see it once, but you have a powerful emotion around it, your reticular activating system goes to work to make it happen. So there's that part of it. There is the part that you can just, what I did, you just deleted it, and 17 years later, it comes around. And the other element is that sometimes what you think you think you want something, it really isn't the best for you. I'll give you an example. I had this huge vision of a speaking tour and loads of workshops, and it was all mapped out on my spreadsheet, on my goal spreadsheet. I even redid my goal spreadsheet so that I could have like these different columns. This whole big old plan. And after about 2 years, I just let it go because it turns out that instead of speaking on a lot of different topics and to a lot of different groups, what really fits my style best is speaking to groups of people that are associated with entrepreneurs I already know and know well, like those in the academy. And I focus on a few topics that I really enjoy talking about, and they're topics that just naturally come out of me. It's almost effortless. It's like I could talk about it all day long. My point in sharing this is that even though I had this great plan and wanted to impact loads of people in all these different arenas over all these different topics, that wasn't what's best for me. What's best for me and what's most impactful for the people I really care about are intimate settings. It might be a big group, but when I say intimate, I mean people that I know really well, entrepreneurs that I know really well. And talking about topics like personal sustainability and goal setting is always a fun one. And talking about where we are in life and our visions and our intentions and finding out our purpose, those kind of things are things that I really enjoy talking about. And so by releasing that huge plan, letting that huge plan go, and all those other topics, I'm really able to focus on where I feel the most joy and where it feels I won't say feels effortless because I do put a lot of effort into creating presentations, but there's so much joy that comes from it that once I'm presenting, it doesn't seem hard at all. So I've shared a lot about me in that, but I wanted to give you those examples because I think there's this, in fact, I know there is this stigma around once we set a goal, we've got to achieve it or we beat ourselves up with it. Just like what Natalie said, goals are sticks we use to beat ourselves with. So I want you to have these two examples, and I have lots more, but these two really more detailed, concrete examples of how it's okay for you to delete goals. And I really want you to feel like you can release yourself from that pressure of once you put it down, that you've got to keep it. Because just know that if it's the best for you, it's going to come back around. So here's a recap of my 3 supplements or complements to your New Year's resolutions or annual goals. Number 1, write a letter to yourself. Number 2, create a vision board. Number 3, delete some of your goals. Now, here's what people don't tell you about goal setting. First of all, goal setting can happen any time of year. It doesn't matter when you're listening to this episode. It doesn't matter if it's March 3rd or July 18th or whatever date. You can stop whatever you're doing, finish this episode, pause this episode, and start creating your goals. And I also focus on creating your intentions, and that's how you want to feel more importantly than the actual goals, because the goals that you set are predicated on how you want to feel in this next season of your life. And again, episodes 21 and 47 for more information about that, about intention setting. Number 2, you don't have to achieve them all in the time frame that you write them. So I talked about this already, but I'm going to emphasize it again. I have rollover goals every single quarter. I have never, ever, ever, ever once achieved all my goals that I've set. Never, never, never. So it is okay. You don't have to achieve them all in the time frame that you set. Number 3, another thing that people don't tell you about goal setting. If you're feeling foggy or unclear, don't worry about it. Don't write, don't, sometimes it's just not the right time. That's probably not the right time to write down your goals. You really want to write it when you feel clear and inspired. And also, if you're feeling foggy and unclear, it could be that you've got a lot of things that are called the messes and incompletes. So if you've got a lot of things that you're already working on that are just sort of out there, it's important to be able to get to a place where you can close some of those out so that you have more white space in your brain to think. And number 4, if you're feeling overwhelmed while you are crafting your goals, it's time to stop. This happens to me, guys. I feel it. At first, I start and I feel peaceful and at ease. And then all of a sudden, after a little while, maybe an hour or so, I start to feel anxious and I realize, oh, I've gone too far. So that is when it's time for you to get up, go for a walk, read something uplifting, and come back to it later. You might even back to it 2 days later. But it is important if you start to feel overwhelmed, then that is your ego taking over. And your ego is not bad, but you're basically out of your spirit at that point. And that's part of you and your ideas taking over. And that's what we don't want, because that's whenever we really set unrealistic expectations for ourselves and put pressure that's not necessary. So, once again, whether you are listening to this episode when it airs in the autumn or January or anytime you're feeling pressure in July, just because this is when it pops up, I hope that now, after listening to this, you're feeling peaceful and confident knowing that if our goals are for us, they'll happen. And it will be because of our preparation and also divine timing, because we've not willed or forced it to happen. And most importantly, it's the serendipitous opportunities and the serendipities, opportunities, and relationships in life that never actually make it to your goal list that actually give you the most joy and satisfaction. So, my friend, with that, be at peace, Know that your spirit is conspiring with the invisible forces of heaven for all for your greatest good, to create a life that's greater than you could possibly ask for or imagine.